Hello, everyone, and welcome to our today's session. Sorry for waiting. We had some technical issues. It happens. Thank you so much for being today with us. We are very happy to welcome you to another interesting session that we have prepared for you today. I'm reminding you that Education USA Virtual is here to assist you with interesting webinars, articles, and information that you can find on our website. Please go there and inform yourself. I also hope that you had enough time to apply for GSAP, for the program that is designed for postgraduate students. So yes, please join us in case if you still want to participate. You can find all the information about us on our website. So yes, let's start with our today's topic with our two interesting speakers. We decided that these topics, you would never get rid of it. You would never get tired of it, actually. I didn't say that correctly, I guess, because it's something that students are always asking. So we decided that why not doing it one more time? So choosing the list of the universities is a struggling thing. And I think our speakers will not only tell us how to do that, but they will give us useful tips, tricks in this useful presentation. I'll just give them the floor so they can introduce themselves. Mandy, you can start. And then we will also move to the Q&A session at the end. So please submit the questions in the chat. We'll be very happy to answer them. Also, tell us from where you are. It's going to be great to know from what location you are joining us.
Hi, my name is Mandy Simpson, and I work at the University of Georgia School of Law. And I want to thank Education USA for having me, and to all the participants, thank you for joining us.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Chloe Glenn. I work at the University at Albany, which is part of the State University of New York. I'm so excited to be here to talk to you today, so thank you for being here.
Great. So I think the first is Mandy, who's going to start with the presentation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mandy, the floor is yours then.
Okay. Will you be advancing the slides? Or okay, great. So our topic is how to choose the right university for you. And so, of course, we have to start with the academic programs themselves. And if you are an undergrad, you might not already know exactly which program you want to join, and what subject you want to study, what subject you want to major in, but maybe you do. And so that is the first place to start. Do your research on schools and look for schools that have the academic program that you're interested in. So not every school offers all the academic programs. Not all schools offer the same ones. And so the first thing to do would be to find schools that actually offer the program that you're interested in, or your field of interest. And also not just the classes, look for the opportunities that will give you practice experience, hands-on learning. So those might be internships, or they could be called externships. They might be called, we call them practical skills classes, anything that might give you on the job or hands-on learning experience. And that would be in addition to the classroom hours. I would also research the faculty at the university you're looking for. Most universities have all of their faculty on their website with bios. And so you can read about the faculty and also the course offerings. When you think about assessment methods and learning style, you know, not every university offers classes where you have exams all the way through the semester. Some courses are one exam at the final, and your whole grade depends on that final. Some grades are A, B, C, D. We're all familiar with that, but some classes might be pass or fail. And so you do want to look at the assessment methods and how classes are taught, and think about your own learning style and what might work for you. When you think about admission requirements and the application process, you know, just make yourself familiar. Most universities, although there are some differences, require some of the same items for the application process, such as letters of recommendation or a personal statement. So just make sure that you're familiar with each university's admission requirements and their application process. And I cannot stress the last two items on this slide enough. Start early and absolutely know your deadlines. For instance, we begin taking applications in September, and we continue all the way through April. However, in January, we have a priority scholarship deadline. So anyone who has already applied early in that period will get first scholarships. And you really want to make sure that you know your deadlines and begin early. Some universities might want to see transcripts from other schools, and those items can take a long time to arrive. So know your deadlines, start early, and it's not unusual to begin applying an entire year in advance of your start date, but you should begin prepping even another year before that. So it's never too early. Okay, next slide. So when you think about choosing a school, you do want to think about their accreditation and reputation. Accreditation, is very important, both nationally and globally, as well as the school's reputation. And the first place to start in looking at this to make sure the school you're interested in is accredited is the website of the school itself. Most schools are required to have that information somewhere on their website. You may have to dig around for it or search for it, but every school should on their website tell you that they are accredited and with what body they are accredited. And there are both national and global reputations to consider. And again, the first great place to start is the website of the school itself. For instance, if you go to our website, the opening page will tell you what we've accomplished that we're proud of. So that builds into our reputation. So I would start there. I've listed here a few places that you could also start for searching for that. And then at the very bottom, I just want to say one quick word about rankings, because especially if you are interested in studying in a school that is in a different country from your home country, you might not be familiar with all the universities. And usually the first place students start are the rankings, which is a good place to start, but I would caution you that rankings don't tell the whole story. Dig a little deeper and look into schools that might not, be on the top 10 or whatever, just to get a better idea of what is out there. It's a good starting point, but I wouldn't let it be the end all be all. Next slide. One thing you have to consider is the cost of the education, especially if you are wanting to study in the U.S. It is very expensive to study here. It's expensive for Americans, and it's expensive if you're not American and you're studying abroad. So you do have to look at cost and financial aid and scholarships and those type of things. So first, you need to understand the full cost of attendance. Tuition is only a small part of the total cost of attendance. So tuition is just going to cover your classes. Fees are going to be involved. And you need to understand the fees, not only how much they are, but what you get in return for those fees. So for instance, on our website, you can find a whole list of the fees and what they're for. There might be a lab fee if you are taking science courses that require a lab. There are going to be athletic fees that might cover for you to attend the athletic facility on campus if you want to go work out and that sort of thing. There's a lot of different fees, and those are in addition to the tuition. Some of them might be able to be waived, but for the most part, your tuition and fees are going to be separate but mandatory costs. And then finally, living expenses. And I'm going to talk a little more in a subsequent slide about where schools are located and everything, but you do need to have a very clear grasp of how much it's going to cost you to live, not only your room and board, so your rent and utilities, but also transportation costs. Looking at the city the school is in, is public transportation free, or will you have to factor that in? Food costs, things like that are considered living expenses. So to understand the full cost of attendance, you need to look at all three of those portions. Financial aid is out there. There's a lot of different forms of financial aid. Of course, scholarships are awarded to students. Assistantships are usually a waiver of some portion of your tuition in return for either assisting faculty in research or assisting a teaching assistantship. You would assist the a professor to teach the class or maybe grade. So that's usually what is called an assistantship. There are work study programs. That's what I did when I was in school. It is considered a form of financial aid, but it's where you are placed in a job on campus, and you do get paid. It doesn't go towards your tuition. You get paid like a normal job, but you are actually placed somewhere on campus. And then you have simple work on campus jobs that you can apply for. Look at outside scholarships, different organizations that might assist the program you're interested in for scholarships. And of course, I can't not mention Education USA. They are a great resource at helping you identify forms of financial aid and scholarships. Under additional tips, of course, I have apply early again. Be honest about your shortfall. When we award a scholarship and a student might still need just a little bit more, I always appreciate it if they are honest about the shortfall and let me know how much they need. That helps the financial aid committee to be able to distribute financial aid. So don't be shy about being honest about your shortfall if you have that. Factor in health insurance costs. Again, especially if you're studying in the United States, the cost of healthcare is very expensive, and health insurance is mandatory. Now, if you have health insurance from a different source, you can waive it, but if not, the health insurance is mandatory. So make sure you know how much the healthcare is going to cost you. And of course, to help yourself be in a better position to be considered for scholarships, you can make yourself stand out on your application through your personal statement and also your letters of recommendation. Next slide, please. So now that we've talked about the academic portion, one thing that students may or may not think about when they're trying to pick a university is the location and the climate. So of course there are, especially in the United States, it's such a big country with diverse climates. I'm located in the South. We have 4 distinct seasons. The summer is extremely hot, but the winter is very mild. Whereas if you may want to study in Minnesota, which is in another part of the country, you might experience snow for a large portion of the year. And so think about not only what you're used to where you live now, but what you might want to experience, what you might not want to experience. And think about the activities. Again, using Minnesota as an example, I have no idea how to ice skate or snow ski, but those are the big activities, you know, somewhere where it has a cold climate. So think about the things that might make you happy, things that you're interested or might want to try, and when you're looking at a school and the climate. And then another thing to consider is whether or not the school is suburban or in a city, or whether it's outside of a city. Where we're located, we're about an hour from a major city, but the school itself is located in a small, what we call a college town. So it's a small town, the whole town revolves around the university, whereas other universities are situated in the middle of a big city. And so just think about those things, whether or not you're interested in a more fast-paced or slow-paced environment. If you're looking at rural schools, again, going back to the cost of living, look at the transportation options. If you're studying abroad, most of our students do not have cars, and so they do have to think about, okay, how am I going to get to campus? How am I going to get to the grocery store? So these are just all things to consider. And then also cultural opportunities, and the diversity of your social circle. Maybe you want to find a school who has a large population of students that are just like you, or maybe you want to find a school where everyone's different and you want to try new things. So it's just something to really consider. And a good way to get an idea of the cultural opportunities at a school is, again, go back to their website. And most schools will have a master calendar of events, and you can look at the calendar of events for the school and also the community and just see what events are happening around the town or on campus and see if that's something that interests you or not. Next slide. So when you're thinking about campus life and the student community, all schools are different. Here we have, it's a huge university, so you're going to get that big university experience. Our culture on the university kind of revolves around athletics in a big way, but that might not interest you. You might be more interested in a school that is a bit smaller or that doesn't have such an emphasis on athletics and that sort of thing. So I would really encourage you to look at this campus life and the student community to find somewhere that you're going to enjoy being. First of all, the student organizations is a great place to start. Look at the social groups. Greek life is big on some American university campuses. That's the sororities and fraternities. You may or may not be interested in that. So look into that. Look at the professional groups that are offered on campus. If you're studying business, there's probably a business student union, that sort of thing. So look at the professional groups that may tie into your program of study. Activity groups and cultural groups. Again, going back to using a cold climate as an example, if there's an activity group that is always going to go snow skiing, and you're interested in that, then that's wonderful. But you should just be aware of the activity groups on campus, and the cultural groups again. And then think about these items, not just for enriching your life while you're there, but as resume boosters. So you want to join student organizations so that you can add that to your resume. And it just shows, that you are a person that gets involved and has these things that you were involved in and that you can put on your resume. It just makes you a more well-rounded person and gives you something to talk about in an interview as well. So think about those things from that perspective as well. And when you're thinking about the community, look at housing options, whether or not you want to live on or off campus. There are advantages and disadvantages to both. Some schools require first-year students to live on campus. Those are just things, you want to be aware of and begin thinking about. Whether you want to live with roommates or alone. College is a great time to experience living with roommates away from your parents for the first time. But you might be a person who needs a quieter space and somewhere to go back to at the end of the day where you can decompress. So you might want to live alone. So just thinking about those things and factoring in the cost. A lot of times if you live with roommates and you live further from campus, the housing may cost less. Will that work for you? Look at the amenities your apartment or dorm room offer and understand your lease. We always caution students about signing leases before you understand it completely. And again, I've touched on this before, but thinking about transportation. And I've already talked a lot about campus culture already, so I'll go ahead and skip to the next slide on that one. Of course, you're going to school to get a job, so be very aware of what the career services and alumni networks that your university will offer. There's usually an office you can go to talk about career services and what they offer. They will help you with your resume. They will help you with mock interviews, that sort of thing. And then once you're out of school, depending on a strong alumni network is very important across the board for most areas. And then at the end, you just want to be prepared to sort of pitch yourself and be prepared for interactions that are going to eventually net you a job. Next slide. So this is the end of my presentation. This slide just tells you a little bit about the degree program that I work with. It's a very specialized master's in law. So if any of you out there are thinking about going to law school and then after law school may want to study law in the US, that would be me that you could contact to talk about that. So thank you so much for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Hi again, everyone. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the information that Mandy covered, and then just adding a few more details there as well. So when it comes to choosing a university that is right for you, really the first thing to kind of think about if you're just starting at the very beginning with your research or just starting to think about what you'd like to do as a career is, do you have someone in mind who inspired you? So this can be a professor, this can be someone that you know personally, this can be somebody who is well known, who's famous, that type of thing. But just, what is their background? Do they have a degree? What did they go to school for? You can look online and research this. A lot of people have LinkedIn profiles that you can take a look at and see what type of degrees they got in the past, what types of experience they got, the institution they attended. That can give you an idea of maybe how you want to narrow down where to look. If you're comfortable, if this is somebody maybe that you know, maybe from college or university, maybe make contact with them. Many professionals are very, very willing to share their advice and their journey, their academic journey with others. So don't be afraid to reach out to people and kind of build a support network as you are thinking about graduate school or undergraduate as well. And then thinking about what kind of career you would like. So what skills do you value in a work environment? Is there a specific topic you want to learn more about? Especially at the graduate level with master's and PhD programs, you're really focusing on one topic. So in undergraduate in the United States, you kind of have the choice. You do have one major topic that you are studying, but you have the choice to take lots of different classes that cover lots of different things. Whereas in graduate school at the master's and PhD level, you're really studying one specific topic. In fact, maybe even just a very niche subject within that topic, under the umbrella of that topic, or under the topic of that career field. So doing that research in advance, knowing what you want to study, knowing what you want to maybe research or get into is very, very important. And then kind of, where you are 5 or 10 years professionally, what do you want to see yourself doing? Next slide, please. So establishing goals and priorities. So Mandy went over a couple of these already. But again, when you are looking at universities, try to start making a wish list, try to rank these priorities in the order that you want to see them, that you are saying, this is what is most important to me. So is the type of research that the program is doing most important, the type of faculty that are there, the support that is available to students on campus, what the cost of living, the university's location is, what are your main priorities, and make a list of that. Even before you get started, making a list of that can be very helpful so that you can, again, as you're researching, narrow down. There are so many options in the US and around the world for higher education. So really important to establish those goals and what's important to you before you begin this process. So next slide. So this is a way that you can kind of track the research that you find through different universities. If you want to create an Excel or a Google sheet, I know it's kind of difficult to see on here, but creating something that maybe talks about the program, the deadlines, the type of research or projects they're doing, what the campus community culture is like, the type of funding that's available, especially if you are applying to more than one school, that information is going to start to get kind of blurred as you go through the research. So keeping it someplace, keeping really good notes about each university that you look at can be important, again, to narrow down who you're going to apply to and maybe what the best fit is for you. So next slide. We have the next slide. That's okay if we don't. I can continue talking. So the research that you want to do, again, this was on the next slide, so I'm just going to continue talking. The research that you want to do for the program is obviously searching the program's website, their program page. You will definitely try to see where application requirements are, where deadlines are, description of the program, what the program entails. And the website will also usually contain information on faculty who is running that particular program, who the contacts are, and what their research and projects kind of revolve around. So every program is going to be a little bit different on their focus. So that's why it's so important to do that research in advance. When you are looking on the university's website, you can look for course listings or course bulletins, which will give you more information about the required courses and the course sequence and the credits needed to graduate. And then the other nice thing that a lot of U.S. universities have are virtual admissions events. So many institutions, like my institution, the University at Albany, we offer webinars, meetups that are all virtual that can tell you about the admissions process to the graduate school in general or to about a particular program. So always look for those, because a lot of times you can either meet with faculty and staff over Zoom, or you can just attend one of these virtual admissions events. And that will give you a really good idea about the program's culture. It will give you an idea of what the program is offering, that sort of thing. All right. And then the next slide, I don't know if we can skip ahead to research and asking questions, that particular slide. If we can't, that's okay. I'll just keep talking. So in terms of the questions you need to ask, if you are emailing with faculty or with current students, that's another thing to always ask, is if you could meet with a current student from a particular program, because then you kind of get their take on what it's like, how challenging it is, that sort of thing. But the questions you need to ask revolve into kind of 4 different categories. So the fit, we kind of talked about, is it a good fit for you? Is it a program that fits your goals, fits what you'd like to do in the future? The type of funding. So asking questions like, obviously, what types of funding are available, whether it's a scholarship, assistantship. Mandy went over a few of those as well, the types of funding that are out there. But will funding be available for the term that you're applying for? Is funding going to be available just one time, or can you reapply in the future? How many semesters is the funding available? So those are kind of some more like detailed questions you can ask. Is there funding for professional development? So in the United States, there's a lot of opportunities to go to conferences in different states. So asking about that, asking if there are research conferences you can take part in, if you can present research, at different professional development opportunities, if you can meet with, leaders in your particular field. Does the school have connections to that? Does the school have connections to alumni networks that can, work with you on that? So is there funding available for that? And then culture, what is the community and the culture like? So not only what the university's culture and community is like, but also what the greater city is like. So is it collaborative? Is it competitive? Is it a place where you can do a lot of independent learning? Trying to figure that out in advance. And that's where talking to current students can be really helpful. This is another thing to ask current students. What is your daily or weekly life in a program like? Where do you live? Where do you study? Those types of questions. Do they feel supported in the program? What organizations on campus helped you feel more supported? Especially if they're international students, what helped you in the transition to moving to the United States? Was that difficult? What did you do? And then also the outcomes as well. So how long did it take you to go through a particular program? How long does this program take you? So most of the time in the US, an undergraduate degree is 4 years. Master's degree is usually between 1 and 3 years, and a PhD program is usually between 4 and 6 years. So again, asking what is the amount of time that it takes a student to get through this course. What types of jobs are available? So you really want to talk about return on investment. What types of jobs are available after you complete this program? And what percentage of students complete a particular program? And usually the program itself, like if you're applying to, let's say, a master's in chemistry, usually the master's in chemistry program will have those types of statistics. And then choosing where to apply. Once you have more information on where you would like to apply to, you can take a look at these different types of schools that you can look at. So we call them reach, match, and safety schools. So a reach school is a school whose requirements you may not entirely meet, but still may offer what you're looking for. So it's important that when you're looking at different universities to sort of categorize them. Is this a reach school where, you may not entirely meet their requirements, but it still has a lot of the things that you're looking for and you still want to apply? Is it a match school? So schools whose requirements you meet exactly. So whether it's GPA, whether it's maybe the type of academic background they're looking for. See if you can find any schools that are a direct match that you could get into very easily. And then a safety school. So schools whose requirements you exceed, that you could easily get into a program. Have a mix of those. So don't just all, apply for reach, match, or safety schools. Apply for a little bit of all of those so that you can have a good balance in terms of where you are looking and your chances of getting into a program, what you might learn in a particular program. So really try to categorize it as you're doing the research and looking at the requirements. Every school is going to be a little bit different in terms of their requirements. GPA is going to look a little bit different. Again, things like test scores, if you're taking, let's say the SAT or the GRE, they may look a little bit different between certain schools, or they may not require them at all. So again, really important to take a look at the requirements and sort of categorize the schools that you're looking at. Please apply to more than one school. I can't say that enough. Please don't just throw all of your effort into just one particular school. You want to have a mix of different schools that you apply to. There's a lot to choose from, so you should be able to apply or look for and find more than one. So really looking at those that fit your personal goals and priorities, like we talked about, your budget, and then obviously the field of interest that you're looking for, as we talked about, is it a good fit? The next slide, I know you probably can't see this, but some positive things to look for in terms of what you might see as part of the admissions process. So some things to look for that are good signs. So faculty and admissions staff are responsive and curious about you and your goals when you do reach out to them, either by email or if you happen to call them, that they are responsive and curious and they want to talk to you. The application process is very streamlined. The information that you're seeing on the website is consistent regarding deadlines, required materials. It's easy to find. And if you can't find the information, do they give you that information quickly if you reach out? If you talk to students and faculty, understanding whether students are reasonably challenged, but remain motivated and feel supported. And the program and institution has stable growth. It looks like the university has been there a long time, that they're accredited, as Mandy talked about, which is hugely important, and that they have stable growth for the future. They're adding programs. They seem to have a lot of students attending, that sort of thing. Program has a high completion rate or graduation rate, regardless of the acceptance rate. So also asking about that as well. And then obviously, we can't state it enough. I know Mandy went over it, but please make sure that the program you're looking at is accredited. And then making a decision. Some information about a program may not be available to you until after you've applied, so remain flexible and open. So specifics about funding you may not find out until after you've applied and been admitted, access to certain institutional resources, that sort of thing. Programs may release their admissions decisions on different timelines, so you should check your email, keep track of that information, ask about a timeline if you're uncertain. And again, kind of, if you have to make a calendar for yourself, just so you know when deadlines and when, decisions might come out about a certain program, you can kind of keep track of that. And then compare and contrast the programs that you've been accepted to. So as you're sort of making your decision after you've done the application process, you can revisit your goals and priorities that you created, the ones that we talked about in that nice Excel sheet or Google sheet. Revisit those goals and priorities and choose a program that meets your top criteria. And if, like Mandy said, if you need to go back and ask them about other opportunities for funding, if you needed to negotiate that sort of thing, you often can do that. So please don't be afraid to reach out, ask questions, and learn more about that. The last slide is going to be a little bit about my university. There we go, about the University at Albany. So this is my university. We are part of the State University of New York. We are located in Albany, New York, which is about 2 hours north of New York City. We are a medium-sized research university. So it's a really wonderful place that if you want to learn about the research process, if you want to, work with faculty, work with cohorts on really amazing projects that are just really helping to change the world, you could be part of that. So our university has around 53 different undergrad majors and over 150 different master's and PhD programs. So there really is something for everybody. We do emphasize STEM and tech programs, but we also have arts and humanities. We have a really wonderful business program, public administration program, social work, public health. So we have lots of different opportunities, lots of different topics and subjects that you can learn more about. So if you'd like more information, you can visit our website. And I think the next slide here has a little bit more information on, there it is, about our university. So if you want to scan the QR code, one is our brochure if you want to learn more about that, and the other is to get on our email list if you so choose. You don't have to, but if you would like to, you are more than welcome. So with that, I think we are open for questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies. Much appreciated. Thank you for sharing this nice presentation, useful tricks. Okay, so we will move to the Q&A session. So we have some questions that have been addressed in advance, so we're gonna focus to those. So maybe you can share the perspective of each of your institution when responding to this question. So one of the questions, just interested in some useful tips how to choose the right universities for yourself. I think you already answered that, but maybe if you can just add it shortly once more.
Yeah, I think kind of what we talked about, just, making those kind of lists of goals and priorities for yourself, and starting early. I know Mandy talked about this, but that is so important, starting early, because you want to give this time. You want to give yourself time to, do this research, and you want to give yourself the best possible chance of finding a good university for you. So I think starting early is really helpful, and knowing what is important to you, and just making sure it's a good fit.
Totally agree. Great. Then we move to the next one. Are there universities which do not require up-to-date reference letters? The case is that I've had a gap year due to health issues. My last employment was 18 months ago. Mandy, you can start, and then maybe we can move to Chloe.
Sure. Yeah. If there is a gap on your resume that may raise, or anything on your resume, or anything anywhere in your application that may raise any question, get ahead of that by addressing it directly. A good place to do that would be your personal statement. Most universities require, or you can submit one on your own. But if there is a gap, we understand that everyone has health issues. You may have to take time off to care for a family member if they are sick. There's a lot of reasons that are not negative reasons to have a gap on your resume. But the thing you want to do is address it before it gets all the way to the application review committee. Anything that may raise a question, go ahead and address it head on early.
Great.
And the other thing that you can do is in advance of applying is talk to the program before you start the application process. That's totally fine. Usually most programs will either have like a centralized admissions office, or oftentimes this happens in graduate school, every program will have its own representative. So you can reach out to that particular program and just say, look, I'm a little nervous about this. I don't know if this is a problem for you. What do you see in applicants? What do you want to see in most applicants? I have this gap. Is that going to be a problem? And they can definitely talk to you. Most of the time it's okay. A lot of people have gaps in their resume. That's very normal for most people. But if you're very nervous about it, then just talk to the program in advance, and they can give you the best information.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies. The next question, how do you balance the choice between a university with a high academic reputation and one that offers better financial support? What do you think here? Chloe, you can start maybe.
Yeah. So, it kind of depends. So there are universities that do have a high academic reputation and good financial support. So you will see both. You will see universities that literally have both. If you're kind of making a choice between the two, look at other things that maybe are outside of the academic or the financial. Is it a supportive university? Are they emphasizing projects that you really care about? Are they connected with the community? Do you feel like you can make a difference in the community? If it seems like maybe the program is a little bit, I don't know, maybe weaker or not as good in academics, are there still opportunities for professional development? Do they still have a good alumni network? Do they still have a good network with professionals in the community who can mentor you? Do they have good internships? Like maybe you're not learning so much in the classroom academically, but you're learning so much outside through your internship or through, some type of experiential learning. So it's not just either or. A lot of times they can sort of balance out. Other things to think about with the financial side, maybe you don't necessarily get financial aid immediately upon entering the university, but can you apply for other opportunities later on? Are there other ways to supplement, that during your time so that, you can maybe get through your first semester and then apply to something? You can kind of look at that and look at the future and see what maybe they offer as you go along. So these are just, you kind of have to ask more detailed questions as you go through. But that's just kind of maybe a way to look at it as you're researching.
Mandy, you want to add here something? I think we cannot hear you, or is it just me?
I don't know.
Are you?
Oh, there you
yeah,
go.
we can
hear me. I think Chloe answered this question perfectly. Actually, I would echo the same things. Look at your own personal goals. Look at the career development. A lot of times if you ask schools, what are the percentages of students who finish your program who are employed full-time within a year of graduation, and that might, and I cautioned you about rankings before, that might be a lot more important than how highly ranked a school is. So look at your personal goals and look at the career choices that you have after the finish.
Okay, great. We have very great questions, actually. So yes, we will have to answer a lot of them. Let's try to give a short answer to each of them so we will not upset anyone. The next one, if I'm still choosing between a bachelor's and a master's program, how should that affect my short list of universities?
Well, in the U.S., usually you have to get your bachelor's first, and then the master's program comes after that. So that's kind of a built-in way to go.
Yes. Chloe, you want to add something here?
What I would also look at is oftentimes in the university, you can, at the bachelor's level, you can do a combined bachelor's master's program. Some universities offer that. University at Albany offers it, where you can get your bachelor's and master's at the same time. And so you could save time, save money, and that is open to international students. So there's a lot of combinations, a lot of ways you can, get higher education in the US. Sometimes it's the same with master's and PhD. You can do a combination program, or you can jump from the bachelor's to a PhD. So again, lots of ways to get access to higher ed, lots of different combinations.
Awesome. The next question, is it worth applying to schools where your ACT is considered below average? Isn't it more sensible to contribute money and time to only applying to schools where chances of admission are higher?
Chloe addressed this in her slide when she was talking about MAC schools, REACH schools, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't know if Chloe wants to add something here also.
I couldn't totally hear Mandy when she answered, but so I think that is one thing to consider. You can ask the school, obviously, because a lot of times schools will have a holistic admissions process. So they aren't just going to be looking at your SAT scores or at standardized test scores. They're going to be looking at everything. So, you may have very low SAT scores if maybe you're not a good test taker. I'm not a good test taker, so that was never my thing. So I really relied on things like the essay, on letters of recommendation. So a lot of schools will definitely look at that as you go through the application process, and they emphasize different things.
Okay, great. The next one, I also think it's an interesting one. What are the prospects for funding international students in the next few years? How much does the choice of university for your undergraduate degree determine your future place of residence?
I think the prospects are still good for funding. There are so many sources of funding out there. Don't narrow your prospects just to what the school offers or just to what Education USA offers. I mean, look at everything. There are so many scholarships out there that you can apply for, no matter how small. I would apply for every single one of them. So don't let the prospects scare you for John as if there will be funding, and go from there. And the choice of the university determining your future place of residence, that can be important, especially in a small program like law, like I work, because the number of alumni from our school still live in this area. But it certainly is not an end-all be-all determination. So I would, again, look at your future goals, look at where you want to live, and look at the resources and the alumni network that are available in that area, and just think about your personal goals and what you see for yourself and go from there.
Yeah, and I think researching in advance for that second part of that question, researching in advance, what type of job you obviously want to have, but, where is that job most likely to happen? Are you wanting to work in tech and you want to, work in California? So maybe it does make sense to study in California, that sort of thing. So, it's really important to just kind of do that research in advance so you can see kind of, what would be the best option for you.
I totally agree. I think that's that's an advice that almost all the Education USA advisor would give our advisees. So yes, our students. Good. The next question that we will start with the questions that we've got in the chat. And the first one was from Byram. Do you advise the online courses from Udemy and Coursera?
So I think you kind of have to be a little bit careful with some of these, because sometimes they're really good for learning skills. Like if you just want to get an introduction to a certain subject and learn a new skill, it's awesome. It's a great, easy, accessible way. But I think sometimes people will get like courses or certifications from these types of programs, and they're not necessarily accredited, and they don't translate to anything if you're like maybe wanting to get credits at a certain university through these courses. So I know Coursera, some universities actually work through Coursera, and they actually have some of their own classes listed on Coursera. So you can potentially get credit through an accredited university by taking a Coursera class. You just have to be careful. I would talk to the university first. If you see something that's listed on Coursera that looks like it's affiliated with a specific university, talk to that university. Udemy, I think, is a little bit different. I don't know if they have any accreditations or if they're connected with any university, but just kind of do your research on that. But it is a great way to learn new skills. It's an easily accessible way to learn new skills. But in terms of if they translate to credits in the future at a US institution, that can sometimes vary. So just be careful with that.
Mandy, you want to add something here? I think we cannot hear you.
I don't have anything to add. I think that she answered it perfectly.
Thank you. The next question is from Seville. Firstly, I want to know what Greek life is.
I did mention Greek life. Greek life might be an American thing, but it's a fraternity or a sorority that you join. Usually the fraternities are men only and the sororities are women only, but there are co-ed sororities and fraternities as well. And it's just a club. It's just a social club. Some of them are focused on community service and that sort of thing. And some of them, it is just a social club.
Awesome. The second part of the question, when do we have to start our searches about universities? I think you mentioned, both of you, as soon as possible. I mean, early enough. So yeah. The next one from Bayram. What side hustles do you advise to learn so students can earn money during university years? Wow, good question.
Your focus does need to be on your academics first. So I would, be very aware of how much time outside of class you're going to need for reading and for studying and that sort of thing. And because your career is going to be for your time to earn money. But we all need money also to live. And so if you do need a part-time job, I would just look on campus. A lot of times there are opportunities for students, or look off campus to find a part-time job, but do not let it interfere with your studies.
Yeah, and international students can work up to 20 hours per week on campus at most universities, and that's just per visa regulations. So, do research on that, see what the minimum wage would be in that particular area, see how that would calculate in terms of maybe, again, what it would go toward your fees, what it would go towards living expenses, that sort of thing. And asking, and this is why I think it's so important to talk to current students, and especially current international students, about, again, how they budgeted, because that's going to be a huge thing when you start. So that's probably the number one question. If you do talk to current international students, ask them that. And a lot of universities have programs where you can readily talk to current students, current international students. Ours is called Student Ambassador Program, and you can, ask advice of current students at any time. You can email them. And so a lot of universities have that. So that is a really, really good question for, kind of how they budgeted and what they kind of looked for in terms of jobs, or maybe, outside things to earn money.
Great. And I think it's also depending on the major, because I think for STEM majors, or I think you would have a lot of opportunities afterwards, and also for your CPT or OPT, that also might be considered. Good. The next question from Rail: which university is mostly suitable for a good career? I think the one that you want. Your best fit university, Rail. I will put that on the screen so you can see that. We can answer that shortly also. I don't know if you want to say something here.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. So, taking a look at your future career and what it requires. So there are some careers that you only need a bachelor's for it. Other careers, you absolutely need a master's or a PhD. So you may want to take a look at, again, talking to professionals in that career field and say, what did you study? Where did you go? It really will depend on what your particular goals are. There isn't one university that is like, the best careers come from this university. It's really, it really can kind of depend on what your goals are and what the university provides to kind of help you along that way.
The next question: which university ranking system is the best? So I think Mandy spoke about that a bit in her presentation. So if we can give a suggestion here. Even though we are not supporting a lot, and we have actually a webinar about demystifying, the university rankings. We are also not really believing in rankings, but yes, we need to say why is the best or why is not the best.
Yeah, I would echo, just be wary of the ranking systems. Rankings are based on criteria that may or may not be important to you personally, so just be aware of that. But in general, U.S. News and World Report is one of the places you can go to for worldwide rankings. QS.org, I think, is one that I look at sometimes.
Awesome. We move to the next one from Olha. Are there any faculties that would allow me to combine science with business if my goal is to create a space-related tech startup? Nice. Girl in tech.
Yeah, so definitely. So you would be shocked to see the amount of combinations and different programs that are out there that are, could give you that type of experience. I will say this isn't, space related, but we have like a business analytics program which combines business and tech. So again, not totally related to what you're looking for, I don't think, but that is just an example. It's very, very common now that you'll see programs that are combining that business and STEM because that's what people want. That's a really, really big thing that companies and organizations want in the future. So absolutely, you can find those types of combinations. You can find incredible combinations of different research opportunities, different research topics, different subjects. And oftentimes some universities will allow you to kind of create your own, if they really value interdisciplinary work, they kind of allow you that independent study to sort of create your own. So that's another thing you can ask is, how flexible is this program? Am I able to kind of learn what I want through that process?
Great. Thank you. The next one from Bayram. Is it worth to take gap year for making your SAT higher and going to higher ranked university? That's a great question. I think we get it from a lot of students if they are not accepted to an US university. So their next move would be to ask this question. What do you advise?
It's a bad idea at all. Again, you just look at your personal situation, and if it's an option to you, a lot of times it's not an option. But if it is an option to you, I mean, it's not a bad idea. You can work and get more experience. You can take the time to study for and retake the test, that sort of thing. But I would also encourage you to go ahead and apply so that you know you've been through the process and you're familiar with it. And you never know what's going to happen. But then once you get your results where you've been accepted, then you can look at your options and say, is this going to be a good fit for me or a good option, or should I take this gap year? So I would say go ahead and do apply, because you never know, but leave that as an option depending on your results.
Yeah, and a lot of universities now are becoming test optional. So University at Albany is one where you don't have to take the SAT if you don't want to. So definitely look at that, because you may not need to. You may not need to take a standardized test in order to apply to a university. So again, like I said, they may be looking at other things. They may be looking at just the strength of your application on the whole, your personal statement, that sort of thing. So you may not even need to take a gap year. Like Mandy said, you can just go right ahead and apply. So definitely look at requirements before you take any standardized tests, before you spend money and time on that, because sometimes a school that you really love is not going to require that sort of thing. So just do your research in advance.
I totally agree. Thank you, ladies. The next one, are community colleges a good strategic choice for international students who need a more affordable path to a U.S. degree?
They absolutely can be. Yeah. So that's definitely something to look at, to research. There are many times where community colleges will have an agreement with like a higher university, like a 4-year university, and you can have like dual credits or transfer credits in. So that's often a really good way to kind of, pave your way and start with a more affordable option. So yeah, absolutely. I'm glad people are talking about community colleges, because it is a really great way to kind of, start that process, start out maybe at a more affordable level, and then transfer those credits into a 4-year university. Absolutely.
Great. The two last questions we have, one from Pervane. It's good for our career to study in U.S. university or colleges. Mandy, I think we cannot hear you very good. If you can just move a bit closer to your mic.
Sure. I think, again, it just depends on your goals and your career. Just as an example, the Masters of Law that I work with, this gives a lawyer who is educated in another country the opportunity to take a U.S. bar exam. You get this degree, you're able to sit for the bar exam. And if your goal is to practice law for a company that is an international company, then yes, that would further your career. So I think it just depends on your situation and what your goals are, and look at your goals and say, would a degree from a U.S. institution help me in my career? And a lot of times it's yes, and a lot of times it might not be. So I think, again, it just all comes back to your personal goals and situation.
Yes, I totally agree. And the last one from Bayram, how credit system works in university? Do you select what classes do you want to take, or are necessary, or there are necessary any classes?
Yeah, so in the US, you would work with an academic advisor, and this is both for undergraduate and graduate degrees. So you'll have access to that once you're enrolled as a student, and it will be the academic advisor is somebody who helps you kind of plan out your curriculum. So obviously there are going to be core courses that you have to take that are just kind of non-negotiable as part of the program. You have to take those, but then other times there will be electives where you choose what you want to take, especially at the undergrad level. At the graduate level, you may be able to do independent study or independent research where you study what you want to study. So there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of take classes in the US. Usually there are a certain number of credits that you need to graduate from a particular program, so you have to meet those credits. But again, you would just work with your advisor at that point and they can help you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I think we are done with all the questions, and I really hope that everyone got the answer. Some of them we actually skipped because we have actually covered them in the presentation, and our speakers already mentioned the answer in the presentation. So yes, if you have more of them, you can reach them. They have specified their emails in the presentation. We can also leave that after we finish with the live, so we will submit that. So you can, ladies, share with us your email addresses in case people will be interested to know more about your institution. Thank you so much once again for your time, for your expertise, and for that great presentation that you have shared with us today. We appreciate your time and the useful tips you have shared with us. And to all of you that have been so active with us, thank you so much for being so many of you today with us. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope that you found all this information that has been mentioned today useful for your research process. Thank you so much once again, and we wish you a great evening.
Thank you, everyone.